Welcome to video 1, the power of timing. Alright guys, so welcome back. Now this week we're going to be focusing a lot about what the core of Iconic Trader is all about. Okay? And one of the things that gets very important, actually, this whole week I want you to be as focused as you can. If some of the other weeks earlier you might have been a little bit busy and you're watching it halfway, all your lessons, this lesson for this week, you probably want to be extra focused for it. Okay, you want to be extra. So take notes if you have to. You can obviously rewatch this again and again and again. But a lot of the important stuff that I need to say to you guys will revolve around what I teach you in this week. Okay, so pay close attention. Now, a lot of your trading is gonna happen around market hours. Okay, so sometimes if you're looking at a trade that might be performing like this, let's say you are in a range. Okay, let me draw a range, and then you have a session break. Let's say it breaks your previous day's New York and the markets are going higher, and you're like, okay, great, if I get a pullback, I'll get in. Now that pullback and you get in for a cheese, you're always in an active market. Okay? So in a cheese style trading, which you've learned in MPA 2.0, you're pretty much always going to be in an active market. So you never have to actually worry about this issue that I'm about to tell you. However, the stuff you're learning in the Iconic Trader program has to deal with a bigger movement. You're trying to anticipate a movement, which means nothing has happened yet. Okay? So when can it happen? So you have to think of it in the opposite sense, right? So if nothing has happened, when will it happen? So time of day is going to be one of the most important things you want to keep track of. Okay? If you've probably seen some of my videos either on Instagram or on YouTube or anything like that when I'm showing some of the live trades, you'll probably notice I have these clocks set up on my screen where I'm always constantly monitoring what time is it in New York, what time it is in London, and what is my time here in Dubai or wherever I might be traveling at that time. But I'm always aware and on top of what time is it in New York, what time is it in London. Okay? I don't want to be away from that knowledge. So a couple things you want to stay on top of. One is London. Okay? London opens at 8, okay, their time. All right, 8 a.m. Okay, an hour before that, at 7 a.m. their time, Frankfurt opens. Okay, so I'm going to put down here London. I'll just put LON, and then 7 a.m. same London time, Frankfurt opens. Okay, so Germany is open here, and the UK is open an hour after. Okay, I'm going to just put Frank. All right, and then in New York time, 8 o'clock, okay, I want you to remember this, 8 o'clock a.m., New York Forex is a little bit active. Okay, I'm going to put that down, New York Forex. Okay. And then at 9:30, an hour and a half later, okay, 9:30 a.m. Is New York Stock Exchange opens. Okay? So there is a little bit of a time lapse in here that you have to be aware of. Okay? All of your trading that you're going to be doing will revolve around time. Okay, now what I mean by that is either it's going to revolve around the opening hours of the market, okay, within the hour or hour and a half of the open, or any news around it. And most news released are around the opening hours. Okay, so they're all lined up in that confined area of the opening hours. Now, if you think of, for example, the NFP. It's the first Friday of every month, and it's released at 8:30 a.m. New York time. Now, if you think about it, 8:30 a.m. is right in here, New York time. So if the unemployment numbers come out, which is what the NFP means, it's the non-farm payroll, the unemployment numbers come out. Now, whether those numbers are good or bad for the economy, how can people in the stock exchange trade that until 9:30? Only an hour later, when they come into the come and sit down at their desks and the bell rings, is only then they can trade and react to it. So you have to be aware of this little knowledge to make sure that you don't get caught by getting into a trade too early while no one is around. You have to make sure you're in the playground when the big boys come into office. Okay, so I'm sorry to burst the bubble of if you thought, oh man, with Forex, I'm going to be free. I'm going to trade when I want, work when I want. Unfortunately, you're now going to be a glorified employee. You're going to be an employee with 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, but you're still going to have to show up to work. So that's the downside. But don't get me wrong, it's not a bad thing. It's a lot of fun. I wouldn't change it for the world. I love to do this. I'm sure you love to do this as well, because no 2 days are the same, right? So it never gets boring. It never gets boring, and it's always fun to figure out, well, where's my edge? What can I do into the markets? And then when you make money, it's obviously, your smile gets bigger, right? So keep track of these times, because timing is important. Now, I want to show you, discuss a little bit something here with you. What I'm going to do is, so if you have Asia, okay, let's say Asia, and Asia did nothing. Asia's ranging, range, and then you contain that range, and then you find out London hasn't opened yet, okay? At the end of Asia, before London opens, he's already going up, and you're like, huh? Asia's already making a move? Okay, interesting. So then your line that you thought you were containing here is like, oh, that line cannot go there. It's going to have to go up here, up in this area, wherever this candle stops. But you might have noticed earlier that by doing that, you probably took out New York. That might have been before Asia. And you're like, oh, well, at least Asia took out New York, the highest point of New York, okay, which was a session before Asia, right? So you're looking at this like, okay, London didn't open, but it did that. And now it's pulling back, and you're like, oh, it looks ready, but London hasn't opened yet. This can help you with the timing by telling you, hold on. Because if it looks ready, about to go, London might open, do this, and then go. Okay? So, sometimes when you see spikes and stuff like that happening, are traders looking to get a better price to get in. Okay, they're looking for a better price to get in. They're trying to find out which way is the market gonna go, and the opening hours, generally 30 minutes of the opening hours, is for price stabilization. They're looking for prices. They're buying and selling, buying and selling, buying and selling until it settles in a little bit and it starts to pick a direction. Okay, but at least the first 30 minutes you want to give them some time to do all that. Okay, so you want to be aware of things like this. Now, let's move on to the next video, and I'm going to show you something very interesting.